True happiness isn't about getting more, but needing less. Less is more. Hi, my name's Catherine, and in today's video we're going to talk about happiness. And who doesn't want to be happy? We all do, don't we? But sometimes finding that happiness can actually feel quite tricky. So in today's video, I'm going to talk through some stages that I think are helpful in finding that happiness and peace within, because ultimately that is where we find our happiness, from within. Before I move on to those, however, I would just like to mention a week ago or so I was watching a YouTube video, and it was a TED talk, and this was a professor who was conducting a study. I think he was the fourth professor on this study at Harvard University on happiness, and they had been following a group of men from early teenage years up until old age, and they were studying their lives as their lives unfolded to find out what it was that made some of the men feel content and happy and others not. And one of the things that I remember particularly from that TED talk is that quality relationships were really important. Now, that doesn't have to be relationships necessarily that are romantic relationships. These can be relationships just within our inner circle, those few people who are really close to us. And they were saying how important it is to have good people who can nourish you emotionally, who can just love you and provide support and comfort. They did say that they, with the group of men that remained in toxic marriages, they said that they lost their memory earlier, that they didn't live as longer lives. And so actually, by remaining in an unhappy marriage, these men this was a huge detriment to their health. And that really made me think, because actually for all of us, I'm sure, because we have families and friends and colleagues who will be very close to us, sometimes we are thrown together with some people who aren't loving and nourishing, and people who can be quite toxic. And it made me realize even more so how important it is to protect our inner peace, and not let these people monopolize us with their negative ways of thinking. I'm sure you can understand, because it's something that's actually really difficult to navigate, especially if you're, like me, a people pleaser. But it's helped, that particular TED talk has helped me stay strong in my beliefs of putting boundaries around people who can cause us emotional pain. Anyway, moving on. So, I've got itchy nose now. I just had to redo the video because my dog saw another dog and barked and went crazy. So I hope I can remember what I just said. So what are the things that can make us happy? Well, I think I talk a lot about thinking and our actions from a conscious place, yes? Not emotionally reacting to everything. Being conscious about our thoughts, being conscious about the things that we say, yes? So, how we speak to other people. I'm sure you have been on the receiving end of unkind words, and we can often remember, can't we, when people have been verbally harsh to us, that can feel like such an attack, and really it can have a very damaging effect on our self-esteem and mental well-being. So if we can give out that compassion, that wisdom, and speak with intention and just speak kindly to one another, that is so important. Self-discipline, again, I think that comes with speech, yes, being kind, not falling into the trap of gossiping. It's so easy, I know, when you're amongst groups of people who want to draw you into their gossiping, which is basically judging others, isn't it? It's something I've never liked, when I hear people judge others so harshly, because it's so easy to judge, isn't it? It's so easy to cast negative opinions about other people, but unless you're living their lives, you don't really know, so you're judging from an unknown place. And as Jesus said in the Bible, he who is without sin cast the first stone. It's very easy to judge, but we wouldn't like it if we were being judged. So I think we need to be very self-disciplined about how we talk about other people. I know I've been judged and it feels awful. And I also know how I hate that feeling when I'm around people and they're being very judgmental of others, and it's just such a low vibration, negative energy, and we just don't need to do it. It's easy to be drawn in. I see it on YouTube, on shorts, where with celebrities, people will be judging this about them and judging that. And as I said, they're judging them from a place of where they don't actually know. All they're judging them from is the images that they're seeing on their phone. So just being self-disciplined and being intentional and kind with our words and our actions, I think, is very important. Living our life in a way that is balanced, yes. We can get swept up, can't we, in you see in the sales, and people are sort of rushing and out and grabbing and fervently buying everything that they can because it's half price or this, that or the other. And people can be very indulgent, and at Christmas time when you see children who are getting like so many gifts that they clearly can't appreciate because it's just too many, as I said, less is more. And just thinking about sort of how we go about our lives, not overindulging, being mindful that actually there are people out there who cannot indulge in the way that we want to. And also indulging can be, we can overindulge in alcohol or other things that might lead us to become addicted, and therefore that leads us on a path that, well, is not good for us or for the people who are around us. So just thinking in life about balance, even with our diets. I talk to my daughter, she's very keen to be healthy, and sometimes she worries about having sweet things, and I try to explain to her it's okay as long as we keep things in balance. Yeah, so just thinking about our indulgence and gratification, and just keeping, not denying ourselves good things, but just being aware of overindulging too much. Practicing compassion and kindness for others. This, I think, is so important. And it goes back to what I was saying about judgment. It's so easy to judge other people, but actually practicing compassion, in Islam, something that I think is wonderful is that I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think for people who are earning quite well and who have enough money to support their families, then they are asked to give 2% of their earnings to charity. And I think that is a lovely idea, because it's just sort of reminding everyone that actually, yes, we are fortunate, we are happy, but there are people out there who, through no fault of their own, are in less fortunate positions, and not to judge them for that, but to show compassion, I think, is really important. And also gratitude. When we can show gratitude for what we have, it's a truly wonderful thing. And we forget sometimes, I think, that there is so much to be grateful for. In recent years, we've seen really awful things on the news, real suffering from other humans across the globe who are unable to provide safe spaces for their children through no fault of their own, who are put in vulnerable, dangerous situations every single day. And every night when I go to bed and my daughter is in her bedroom, I am very grateful for the fact that I can give her that safe space, and I'm very grateful for being able to provide food for her, because actually being grateful for those things that sometimes we just take for granted every day, but for other people those basic necessities aren't there. So just finding gratitude each day in the things that we have around us, I think is so important. Sorry. Detaching from desire, yes. When we learn to let life unfold before us, when we learn to release a tight grip on the things that we want, that can really open us out to happiness. We can so desperately cling on to relationships, onto the need for more money or more things, and by that desperate clinging on, we're often actually doing the opposite. By our desperation to have, we end up not having the things we want. But if we can let go of control, if we can just learn that actually what's meant for us will come for us, then that can make us feel a lot more satisfied. Enjoying the simple things in life. It can be easy, can't it, to be sort of swept away in glamour. And if you go on Instagram and see all these models with their taking selfies from these wonderful boats in Cannes or wherever on the French coastline, we can get a bit swept away with the glamour of it all. But actually, when we can learn to enjoy those simple things in life, it is truly wonderful. I would love to know what simple things you enjoy in your life. What do you do perhaps every single day that makes you feel happy? I know there's lots of things that I find make me feel happy. I have one of those stove coffee pots, and every morning the first thing I do is come downstairs and I make my coffee. And when I am having that cup of coffee, I am so happy because I love my coffee. I love my bath. I don't have a working shower at the moment, so we have to have a bath. But I love my morning bath, and I love walking my dog in the park because we're so lucky. We have beautiful woods and parklands near us, and just seeing the seasons change and the beauty that comes with each season really makes me feel happy. So also living in the present moment, because actually when we're living in the past, it's something I actually find a little bit difficult to relate to, because I very much never think about my past. I'm very much more of a sort of forward thinking person. And also I don't have a great memory, so I forget a lot of things. But I do know that for people who do live in the past, who are constantly thinking about their past and their past regrets, or if only this had happened, if only that had happened, what if, that can really lead to depression, ruminating over the past and becoming too anxious about the future, worrying about the ifs and buts and what ifs of the future. We don't know how the future is going to be. We can't control the future. Yes, we can put things in place, we can have goals we can work towards, but actually we don't know what the outcomes are going to be. So when we can just sort of take away that constant living in the past, or living the anxiety of the future and bring ourselves to the present moment and learn that actually the only moment that is right now. That is the only moment, yeah? The here and now. And that can feel so freeing when we can just live in the now and enjoy each moment for what it is, just by understanding that now is our life. Our life is now. Yes? And lastly, I think personally for me, having faith gives me a lot of happiness. And when I say faith, I mean it's very personal, and I think that it doesn't matter what you believe in as such, because I have respect for all religions, but it doesn't have to be a religion. It can just be believing in the universe, in a higher power, in the light. But I think having faith can really help you be a happier person, because it can make you sort of have trust in, you trust in the process, you trust in life, and that the hands that you have been dealt for a reason. And it also helps you sort of zoom out and see yourself as this tiny little speck amongst a vast universe, and it gives you some perspective. So anyway, that's all I've got to say today. Otherwise I'll keep going on and on and on and on and on. But if you have any thoughts about what makes you feel happy, or any other ideas that you would like to add to the discussion about things that make us feel happy in life, I would love to hear from you. So please do comment, like, subscribe, and we're finding and protecting that peace within so we can send all our love out. Have a wonderful day. Bye bye.